If you've ridden horses before, or if you've ridden elephants before, then you know where I'm about to go. There's the rider, and then there's the elephant. Let's just stick with the elephant rather than the horse. The rider is the part of us that is logical, it's efficient, it has the to do list and a checklist. It knows that, frankly, change needs to happen. We're going in this direction. It's generally cool headed and wants to find the best path. Again, it's the rider, it's guiding. Like about to do the electric slide. All right, rest in peace to Frankie Beverly, by the way. Speaking of electric slide, I love you. All right, so it's like a rider. You're going, right? Then you have the elephant. The elephant is what you're riding. The elephant is emotional. It is intense. It is powerful, powerful, powerful. It's allowing itself to be ridden. It, whether it's explicit or not. If you're riding on an elephant, you got its permission in some form. It's allowing you to do so. Both of these are how we operate. The rider, again, is very logical, trying to be efficient, says, well, we know this must be done. It's right in front of our eyes. The elephant says, well, I'm emotional and I'm big and I'm actually bigger than you. And if there's like our old school cartoon, if there's like a mouse on the floor and the elephant gets scared, all bets are off. It's running things. The elephant is running things. The rider is kind of our human mask, basically saying, you know what? Everything's cool. I'm a logical person. Yeah, of course I should get up and go to work. I have to wake up at 6:30 in the morning, and I need to go ahead and leave this time to do the commute. And then, of course, I'm going to have a very reasonable lunch. I'm not going to stop at Wendy's, and no offense at Wendy's, but I'm not going to stop at Wendy's, and then I'm going to come home, and then I'm going to go and exercise, and then I'm going to go to bed at a reasonable time. The elephant is like, no, actually, you're going to stop at Wendy's, and then you're not going to go to the gym, and then you're going to stay up on your favorite streaming service. That's what you're going to do. That's because the elephant's like, no, that's what I'm going to do. When we deal with change, and I'd say to a lesser extent transition, but focus on change, then it's a tension between the rider and the elephant. Again, this is Jonathan Haidt, Haidt, shout out to him, mentioned in the book Switch by Chip and Dan Heath. We'll talk about the book more in a second. So that's kind of the analogy that we're working with. That's why we can't just say, okay, I'm going to get back to the gym analogy. I'm going to go to the gym every day, and somehow you're not at the gym. I'm going to be more patient with my kids when they're getting on my nerves, and suddenly, you're flying off the handle. You're like, well, that's not logical. Well, no, because we're actually not logical people. And remember, the rider and the elephant, there's this analogy or the symbolism for a reason. The elephant isn't the logical one, the rider is. So we're driven by emotion, we're driven by passion. So in this wonderful book, Switch, they break down the 3 steps to changing your life, or changing something in your life if you want to make it less grandiose. Number 1 is to direct the rider. Remember, you're riding. Number 2 is to motivate the elephant, to keep the elephant going. And last is to shape the path, to give it direction. This is why, and this is really why I'm bringing it up. Fantastic stuff. I'm going to go ahead and throw the link in the book as well, so you guys know what's happening. All right, so when it comes to directing the rider, this is one of my favorite passages in the book. What looks like a people problem is actually a situation problem. So if you're having a hard time making a change in your life, it looks like a people problem is actually a situation problem, right? Again, back to the food analogies. If you want to eat healthier, but you have 20 packs of Oreos in your fridge or cabinet or whatever, what is the first thing that people are taught to do if they want to eat better or be healthier? Throw out the junk. So junk isn't in the house, then that's fine. So in that sense, it's a situation problem. The situation is this, that, and the third. I have people that I adore who have gone through Alcoholics Anonymous. One of the challenges with AA, and if you're familiar with the 12-step process or other types of addictions, one of the things they talk about is it's actually not a chemical problem per se. It is. But the real problem, after you get over the chemical stuff, is the social part. Because if you have a hard time making friends, and some of the ways that you grease that social wheel is by drinking, then you're going to run into a lot of people who might have the same issue, and they become your friend group. Where's your friend group hang out? At the bar. So then you're not just letting go of the alcohol, but you're also letting go of your friend group. So if you focus just on alcohol, you're going to be lonely as hell because Barney and whomever else is still at the bar. So it makes it harder to change your life. That's what they're getting at. We look at things as a people problem. They just can't do this, or they don't really want to do this. But in actuality, it's the environment, it's the situation. So if you're trying to make a change in your life, how can you actually make yourself successful, build up the environment so that you're actually ready for success? How can you make that happen? That's in the environment. And that might be part of leading on other people or setting up things or having conversations. We're going to get into conversations in a minute when we talk about transitions. But having conversations with loved ones or people that are supporting you saying, okay, I need this from you, or we can't do that anymore. We need to do this. It's not a people problem. It's a situation problem. That's what it means directing the rider, allowing your logical self to take over. But it's a lot easier to do if you actually have an environment that's going to be more supportive of that. We can't always build up all the support that we want or frankly need, but we definitely need to have it on our radar. If we're having a hard time, that might be part of the problem. The second thing is, I love this one. What looks like laziness is actually exhaustion. When we have a hard time making a change, what looks like laziness is actually exhaustion. Let's go back to the Oreos in the cabinet. It's like, no, I'm gonna eat healthier, no more Oreos. And then you know, the Oreos, double stuff, whatever your vice happens to be. I think Oreos are okay. I have other vices. But you know what I'm saying? It's like you hear them. And it's like, they're right there. It's like, you have a rough day? Maybe I'll have an Oreo or two, whatever. But that's not laziness that you end up succumbing to the Oreos. That's a lack of willpower. You're tired. They talk about this a lot in the book Switch, where they have actual scientific studies where it's not about you actually saying not having the willpower to do it. It's actually you do have the willpower. It's just it takes so much willpower that you're exhausting yourself. And then we end up giving up. So again, this falls a little bit back in the environment again, as well as actually being gentle and kind with ourselves. If we're gentle and kind with ourselves, then we can say, you know what? Yeah, I had a couple Oreos. It's taken a lot of willpower to not do it. But I'm doing okay. And I didn't have 10 Oreos, I just had 2. So it's a level of grace, as we talked about earlier in the episode. And I talked about this with Brene Brown's Guide to Emotional Intelligence. Again, the link is below. But she talks about this, and I talk about this, as far as giving yourself grace and self-flagellating yourself. Like it's not gonna get you there. And in fact, it's more likely to reverse those changes because you're just gonna get tired. So especially here in the Western world, and particularly here in America, there's so much dialogue as far as people not changing because they're lazy. It's like, well, they're arguing, well, no, actually. They're not changing because their willpower is tired. Imagine having to fight something every single day that your natural habits go towards. And you've had that habit or whatever for a while. That's hard. So how can we, again, change the environment and also be gentler and kinder to the people? So motivating the elephant and actually helping people figure out what can motivate them to make that change versus chastising them when they're tired. There's a big difference in that. So number one, it's direct the rider. So that means what looks like a people problem. Peter Piper picked a pecker. What looks like a people problem is actually a situation problem. What looks like a people problem is actually a situation problem. So you gotta change the environment as much as possible. Number two, you have to motivate the elephant. What looks like laziness is actually exhaustion. So how can you get that energy back? Part of the reason, or part of the things you can do, in my opinion, is to give grace when changes don't work as quickly as you'd like. Again, you're steering an elephant. Your passion is saying, yes, let me eat the Oreos. Your rider's saying, no, we're not going to eat the Oreos. That's a tug of war. And often the elephant's going to win. So if you understand that, then logically you can say, oh, okay, well, sometimes I'm gonna fall off the wagon, or whatever the equivalent is. Sometimes I'm not gonna make it. And that's okay, to give yourself grace for that and find ways to motivate yourself so that your more passionate side could be more involved with it. Maybe instead of having double stuffed Oreos, maybe you find a really sweet fruit that gives you that same dopamine rush that you get from sugar. But some way to compensate for that makes sense. The last one, number 3, is to shape the path, shape the direction that things are supposed to be going. What looks like resistance is often a lack of clarity. Love that line. What looks like resistance is often a lack of clarity. So I got 2 kids, they're 8 and 11. One's in just started middle school, and one is in late elementary school. And they lose stuff all the time. You know, if you raise 8-year-old or 11-year-old, I know you're shocked, but they lose stuff all the time. One of the things that me and my co-parenting partner do is we create systems so that for the eldest, the bookcase behind me, the book bag, and then they play an instrument. So their instrument is right next to the book bag. All that stuff is organized as possible. Now, giving them responsibility to organize some of it, but at least the basic placeholders are there. So the chances of them forgetting their instrument when they're running inevitably late for school, going to 6th grade, the chances of them losing that instrument or forgetting that instrument is a lot smaller. Why? Because we make sure I get the term right, shape the path. I love that term. Shape the path. What looks like resistance, why isn't my son taking his instrument? Does he not want to play it? Is actually a lack of clarity. Oh, he was in such a hurry and he was doing too many things. He didn't notice that his instrument was there. Why not put it in a place where he'll put it in a place where he puts it down, where it's going to be all the time. So he knows that's the place for his instrument. So he doesn't have to think about it. Boom, half done. And now he's not forgetting his instrument. Real life examples. Like, I'm not making this stuff up. Real life examples as far as with the instrument. That's how change is enacted. Number 1, you have to understand that what looks like a people problem is actually a situation problem. You have to change their environment. Number 2, what looks like laziness is actually exhaustion. Don't put yourself in situations where you have to use up your willpower, because the willpower is going to lose. The elephant's going to win when it comes to analogy of the elephant and the rider. And lastly, what looks like resistance is often a lack of clarity. If you don't have a clear path or a clear system for you to make that change, then of course it's going to be harder, and you may never make the change because it's taking too much energy. Fantastic book. It's called Switch. Just started reading it last week. Fantastic book. This one, again, is about change. This previous one I was talking about is about transition. We're about to get into transition again. Change, though, is the outer stuff. I need to do this. This needs to change. How do I make myself change? That's what this book is about. Fantastic pick. If you want to go in and watch Bringworth episode that talks about this, I recommend Reverse Clause, The Biggest Stoic Secret. It's from another one of my favorite books, Daily Stoic. Love my new bookcase, Daily Stoic. Shout out to Ryan and Stefan. Hope y'all both are doing well. Fantastic book. This chapter, tearing up my books here. This episode is only about 4 or 5 minutes. And it talks about my favorite chapter in this 365 chapter book. It's called Daily Stoic for a reason. My favorite chapter is about the reverse clause and about making decisions. And sometimes we're not willing to make decisions because we put too much weight on the impact of that decision. And sometimes those decisions aren't as impactful as we think they are. That's what it's about. Me explaining the episode will be longer than the episode itself. The episode's like 4 minutes. All the links are below if you want to check it out. after our conversation today. Again, I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown, here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, and otherwise not just entrepreneur. Sorry, that coffee's getting me today. You're watching the Bring It Worth show at bringitworth.tv. Come to you regularly on Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I don't need more coffee, and at the same time, I need more coffee. Go figure. You subscribe to Bring It Worth TV for free. This is episode 393. Y'all been rolling with me. It'll be 4 years this winter. Almost 400 episodes. It'll be 400 episodes probably by then. Well before the holiday season. Enjoy. Dive in. I made it all for y'all. It's literally hundreds of hours of live conversations, some interviews, including with lots of interviews to go through, and would take a long time. But a handful of interviews, me being interviewed as well as me interviewing other people, fantastic folks that were gracious enough to come onto the program, particularly early on in the program, as well as a lot of audiobook editions of the books that I was talking about, including the complete Bring It Worth collection. The link is below. Enjoy yourselves. Have fun. This is really for y'all. So are there particular changes that you're going through in your life that you're struggling with? Are there changes that you've gone through that you have particular insights or hints that you want to share with the audience or with myself?